Ladies and gentlemen, there's a particular kind of woman who doesn't ask for attention. She draws it. A woman who walks into a room and immediately shifts the atmosphere, not with her looks, but with something deeper. She is not young, not trying to be. Ooh, she has moved past the polite games, the forced innocence, the need to impress. She is mature and she is sexually irresistible, not in spite of her vices, but because of them. Let's talk about these 8 dirty vices. And understand, by dirty, I don't mean immoral, I mean raw. I mean raw, untamed, unfiltered. 1. Unapologetic desire. She wants what she wants, and she's not afraid to say it. Whether it's sex, power, or silence, she asks, she takes. There's no hiding, and in a world obsessed with shame, that kind of clarity is intoxicating. 2. Emotional brutality. She doesn't fake it, emotionally or otherwise. She can love deeply, but she'll cut through pretense with surgical precision. If you lie, she'll know. If you try to control her, she'll disappear. That sharp edge? It keeps weak men away, and strong ones addicted. 3. Erotic intelligence. She understands the dance of intimacy is more than technique. It's timing, energy, and suggestion. She's fluent in the language of glances, pauses, and whispered confessions. She reads bodies and moments like poetry, and writes new verses every night. 4. Spiritual rebellion. She has made peace with both heaven and hell within her. She doesn't chase purity. She plays in the mud, in the mystery, in the sacred and profane. She knows that true eroticism is spiritual rebellion, the kind that refuses to apologize for being fully alive. 5. Controlled chaos. She is unpredictable, but not unstable. There's a wildness in her, yes, but it's hers. She can throw your world off balance with a look, a challenge, a truth you didn't want to hear. And once you've tasted that chaos, the ordinary will feel unbearable. 6. Seductive silence. She doesn't over-explain, overshare, or over-please. Her silence says more than your noise ever could. In her quiet, there's a dare. Come closer, if you can handle it. Most can't. 7. Calculated cruelty. She knows when to walk away and how to hurt you without raising her voice. Not out of malice, but out of wisdom. She's not here to save you. She's not here to be your mother. If you take her for granted, she'll vanish like a storm that leaves you begging for rain. Sovereign sensuality. Her sensuality isn't about being available. It's about being untouchable, unless invited. A pivot. She touches herself with the same reverence she expects from others. She owns her pleasure, her body, her energy, and when she does give, she gives like a storm, not a drizzle. So yes, these are vices, but they are sacred vices. The kind that rise from a woman who has embraced her full self, her fire, her wounds, her rage, her grace. A woman like that isn't just sexually irresistible. She is unforgettable. Thank you. Desire, when stripped of shame, becomes power. And there's something unspeakably magnetic about a woman who has learned not just to feel her desires, but to own them completely, unapologetically, even audaciously. For the mature woman, desire is no longer a secret kept in the margins of her life. It is central. It breathes through her skin. It's in the way she speaks, the way she looks at you, the way she takes up space without shrinking herself to soothe anyone's discomfort. She does not apologize for wanting pleasure or for expecting it to be mutual, intense, and honest. She's no longer in the business of performative modesty. She's not playing the game of making herself small to make someone else feel big. She isn't trying to look like she barely knows what she's doing to attract someone who doesn't know what they're doing. Her sexuality doesn't beg, it commands. This kind of woman doesn't ask permission to want. She simply wants, fully, clearly, and without dressing it up in pleasantries. That's what makes her dangerous. Not because she's cruel, but because she refuses to contort herself to meet someone else's expectations of how a woman should behave. She won't make herself more digestible for a man's ego. If her hunger is too intense, she'll leave the table. But she'll never pretend she's not starving. There is a kind of desire that comes from innocence, young, wide-eyed, unsure. And then there's the kind that comes from experience. The mature woman has seen things, been broken, been worshipped, been misunderstood, been touched in ways that left her numb, and in ways that rewired her soul. And then ways that rewired her soul. She's sorted through all of it, and what remains is a kind of clarity that you can't fake. She doesn't need to perform seduction. She is seduction. She's been in enough rooms to know that most people are terrified of their own cravings. They bury them, sanitize them, spiritualize them, or turn them into quiet addictions. But not her. She holds hers like sacred fire. She's done with trying to be good in a world that punishes women for being whole. She's good to herself now. That's the difference. When she looks at you, it's not to flatter or flirt or play coy. It's to read you, to see if you can handle the voltage she carries. She doesn't need you to need her. She needs you to match her, emotionally, energetically. Her desire is not about being chosen. It's not about being chosen. It's about choosing intentionally, consciously, and with full presence. She chooses her lovers the way she chooses wine or poetry, by depth, by texture, by the way it lingers long after the moment has passed. She's not interested in being pursued by men who only know how to chase what they can't keep. She is not impressed by lust without focus or attention without depth. Her desire requires something rare, resonance. And when she gives herself, it is not out of fear of loneliness or fear of age or fear of missing out. She gives herself only when it feels true. Unapologetic desire is not chaotic. It is precise. It is a weapon. It is a compass. It is a birthright. It is a birthright. She has spent years recovering it from the stories that tried to bury it. Religion, culture, failed lovers, her own younger self. And now that she has it back, she guards it. She feeds it. She lets it guide her to what is alive and away from anything that asks her to dim her flame. She doesn't need permission to want. She is the permission. Emotional brutality is not cruelty. It is precision. It is the refusal to lie to others and, more importantly, to oneself. A mature woman who embodies emotional brutality does not engage in the performance of emotional comfort just to keep the peace. She's done with sugarcoating truths for the sake of being likable. She's not here to babysit egos. She's here to speak what most won't dare say, to cut through the fog of politeness with the sharp edge of reality. This kind of woman does not scream. She doesn't have to. Her words, when spoken, land like steel. Not because she is unkind, but because she has learned that kindness without honesty is betrayal. She knows how to say, "I don't need this," and mean it. She knows how to end things without ceremony. Not out of coldness, but out of clarity. Clarity that took years to earn. She has paid for this power. Emotional brutality is not something she was born with. It's something she forged in the heat of disappointment. She learned, over time, that pretending hurts more than confronting. That holding back truth to protect someone's feelings usually ends up costing more for everyone involved. So she doesn't pretend anymore. She tells you the truth, whether it flatters you or not. If she loves you, you'll know. If she doesn't respect you, you'll feel it. And if you've crossed a line, she won't argue. She'll simply stop responding. She has no time for emotional theater. Passive aggression, manipulation, silence games, endless explanations. These were tools of her younger self. She's buried them. Now, she deals in directness. If she's hurt, she tells you. If she's done, she leaves. There are no exit monologues, no final breakdowns. Just a closed door and the sound of her heels walking away. You won't find her asking for closure. She doesn't believe in romantic autopsies. If you made her feel small, if you made her doubt her worth, she will vanish because she's done trying to convince people to treat her well. And when she walks, it's never out of spite. It's out of self-respect. That's the brutality. She will not linger where she is not honored. She can cut you out with elegance. She doesn't need to scream or break things. Her silence is more devastating than most people's rage. When she stops explaining, you've already lost her. and you'll feel the space she once occupied, because when a woman like this is gone, she leaves behind an echo you can't drown out with noise or new lovers. Emotionally brutal women aren't heartless. They are just done bleeding for people who can't stop stabbing. They are done giving softness to those who see it as weakness. They are not incapable of compassion, they just don't offer it blindly. It must be earned. If she offers you vulnerability, she expects you to hold it like something sacred. If you mishandle it, she won't give you another chance. She does not play victim. She owns her scars like medals. She knows what it's like to be gaslit, lied to, underestimated, and she's turned every betrayal into boundary, every heartbreak into insight, every wound into weaponry. That's why she no longer waits to be understood. Soothed. She understands herself now, and she won't dilute that understanding for anyone. You can't manipulate her with guilt or flattery. She doesn't fall for charm. She reads intention. She doesn't care what you say. She watches what you do. And when she sees that your actions don't match your words, she won't argue. She'll just remove herself from the equation, not to teach you a lesson, but because she refuses to live inside lies. Erotic intelligence is not about sex. Not entirely. Not entirely. It's about how a woman carries the possibility of sex, how she wields energy, tension, presence, and suggestion. It's the art of knowing that seduction starts long before the bedroom, and that intimacy has more to do with attunement than anatomy. A mature woman who embodies erotic intelligence does not need to show skin to provoke desire. She could be wrapped in layers, sitting across the table from you, and still leave your thoughts tangled in the shape of her. She doesn't rely on the predictable tricks of arousal. She doesn't mimic what porn taught. She doesn't ask, do you like this? Like a woman trying to earn approval. She already knows what she likes, and that knowing becomes the invitation. Her allure is not rooted in performance. It's rooted in presence. Real, deep, grounded presence. Real, deep, grounded presence. When she looks at you, it's with awareness, with choice, with unapologetic curiosity. She's not wondering if she's enough. She's wondering if you are. Erotic intelligence is psychological. It's the ability to create space for desire without rushing to consume it. She understands that real seduction lives in the pause, in the silence, in the glance held 1 second too long. She understands the magnetic power of anticipation, the slow burn, the tension that builds when two people hold their hunger without trying to satisfy it too quickly. She can turn your mind on before she ever touches your body. That's her superpower. She knows how to read a room, not for attention, but for energy. She can sense where the heat is. Who's holding back? Who's ready? Who's faking it? She sees the nervous smiles, the buried need, the unspoken longing in someone's eyes. And if she wants to, she'll call it forward, sometimes with a word, sometimes with silence, sometimes with nothing more than the way she breathes. This is not manipulation. It's intuition refined by experience. A woman with erotic intelligence doesn't treat pleasure like a transaction. She doesn't view sex as something she gives to someone in exchange for affection or safety. It's not a bargain, it's a collaboration. She brings her whole self to it, her mind, her breath, her history, her rhythm. She is not afraid to lead, not afraid to lead, not afraid to receive, not afraid to let go. But she also knows how rare it is to find someone who can meet her there, so she doesn't waste her energy on the unready. She knows that eroticism can be sacred, profane, healing, destructive, or all four at once. She knows that what turns her on isn't just touch, it's being seen, really seen, and she returns the same. She's not looking for a perfect body, she's looking for aliveness. For someone who can sit in their own desire without shame, for someone who can match her openness without being afraid of it. She understands the seasons of sexuality. She's lived through phases of drought, obsession, numbness, ecstasy. She's not chasing highs anymore. She's seeking depth. Connection that doesn't vanish after the orgasm. Words that don't evaporate when the clothes come off. She knows that sex can be a performance or a portal, and she refuses to confuse the two. Erotic intelligence means she listens, not just to words, but to tone, pace, resistance, surrender. She hears the difference between VS and ES, but between being touched and being felt, between consent and comfort. And when she touches, she doesn't just stimulate. She invites, she opens a door into herself and waits to see if you know how to walk through without trampling. There are women who walk into a room and disappear into it, trying not to be too loud, too bright, too much. And then there are women whose mere arrival alters the atmosphere, not because of beauty in the conventional sense, not because of age or style or status, but because of presence, something cultivated, not inherited. A mature woman with command of presence doesn't chase the room's attention. It takes the room's attention. The room offers it to her willingly, instinctively, almost with reverence. This kind of presence is not about being extroverted or dramatic. It's not loud. It's felt, like a low hum in the air. People don't always know what draws them to her. They might say it's her confidence, her voice, the way she stands, or how she never rushes her words. But what they're really feeling is self-possession, her refusal to shrink, to hustle, to perform. She occupies space without apology. She does not fidget, fill silences, or ask for permission. She moves slowly, speaks with intention, and listens in a way that makes you suddenly aware of everything you're not saying. Her presence demands your presence. You stop checking your phone. You stop choosing your words more carefully. Not out of fear, but out of instinctive respect. She doesn't try to be likable. That's the key. She has no interest in contorting herself to be what others need her to be. She doesn't sell charm. She doesn't soften her edges for easier digestion. And this refusal to bend becomes irresistible. People trust what is solid. What is rooted. What does not flinch in the face of discomfort. That's her gift. She stands as she is, and it makes others question why they don't. She has lived through enough to know that charm is cheap. She's been flirted with by men who couldn't hold eye contact when things got real. She's been praised by people who later disappeared at the first sign of truth. So now she values substance over style, presence over performance. She has nothing to prove. And that, paradoxically, proves everything. Command of presence is not just about how she moves in public. It's about how she sits with herself when no one's watching. A woman like this is not afraid of her own silence. She doesn't need constant stimulation or validation to feel alive. She can sit with stillness, with sadness, with longing. She can sit with someone else's pain without rushing to fix it. Her presence is healing, not because she tries to heal you, but because she gives you permission to stop pretending. She has cultivated this energy through loss, through betrayal, through learning what parts of herself were real and which were borrowed. She has buried the parts that begged. She has resurrected the parts that endured. Her presence is the sum of every time she stayed with herself instead of abandoning her truth for approval. And now, when she enters a room, all of that history walks in with her. She doesn't compete. She doesn't compete. She doesn't compare. She knows her worth, and it radiates in ways that can't be taught, only earned. It's in her stillness, her posture, the way she makes eye contact without breaking it. It's in her pauses, her pacing, the way she creates a sense of gravity just by breathing with intention. You feel calmer around her. Or more nervous, depending on how close you are to your own center. When she speaks, people lean in, not because she's the loudest voice, but because her words have weight. She doesn't flood the space with opinions. She doesn't dominate with noise, sir. She disrupts with truth, and that truth lands like a stone in still water. She can redirect the energy of a room with a single glance, not by demanding authority, but by embodying it. There is something undeniably erotic about a woman who refuses to obey. Not out of spite, not for attention, but because she has outgrown the cages that once kept her tame. Rebellion, when rooted in self-knowledge, becomes more than defiance. It becomes seduction. And a mature woman who walks with that quiet rebellion radiates a dangerous kind of allure. Not dangerous because she harms, but because she disrupts. She disturbs the polite narratives, the domesticated expectations, the hollow scripts that have shaped how women are supposed to behave. She does not play the good girl. That role is long dead to her. She's buried the version of herself that kept her voice soft and her knees crossed, that smiled when she wanted to scream, that gave herself away to stay likable. The woman she is now holds a different power, one that doesn't ask for forgiveness, simply for existing in full force. That power doesn't come from aggression. It comes from freedom, erotic freedom, emotional freedom, intellectual freedom, and freedom in a world that survives on control is deeply threatening. She doesn't need to be shocking. Her rebellion isn't loud or messy. It's strategic, subtle. It lives in the way she says no without flinching, in the way she laughs at rules she no longer respects, in the way she wears her age, her past, her sensuality, without apology. Her very presence challenges the conditioning that women must earn their value by being small, pleasing, or self-sacrificing. There's a reason the rebel woman is so intoxicating, because she is unpredictable. Not chaotic, but ungovernable. You cannot manipulate her with shame, because she's already walked through the fire of self-judgment and came out untouched. You can't seduce her with power because she's found her own. You can't scare her with loneliness because she's learned how to love herself in silence. She's dangerous to anyone who needs to be in control and magnetic to those who crave liberation. Her rebellion doesn't only show up in her choices, it lives in her body, in how she moves, in how she dances without needing permission. In how she touches herself without guilt, how she looks someone in the eyes and lets them see that she's thinking not about how she's perceived, but about what she desires. Her body is no longer a battlefield between purity and shame. It is a sovereign territory. It belongs to no one but her. To no one but her. She knows that real rebellion isn't just about breaking rules. It's about rewriting the ones that never made sense in the first place. She reclaims what has been denied: pleasure, anger, ambition, depth. She refuses to perform numbness. She refuses to pretend she's okay with less than intimacy that burns clean. Her standards are not high, they are honest. And that honesty repels the shallow and draws in those who are hungry for something real. She remembers being told that being too much would leave her alone. And now, in her fullness, she attracts those who have the capacity to meet her where she stands. She doesn't flirt to be chosen. She doesn't shrink to seem safe. She has made peace with being misunderstood, even feared. That fear becomes part of her mystery. People sense the wildness in her and mistake it for danger when what they're really feeling is the death of their illusions. To rebel, for her, is not about rage. It's about reclamation of time, of voice, of sexuality, of life. She lights the match not to burn things down without purpose, but to see what needs to die so something more true can rise in its place. She doesn't ask anyone to join her rebellion. She just lives it. And those who are ready feel it like static in the air. They don't always know why they can't stop thinking about her. But the reason is simple. She's free, and freedom is the most dangerous aphrodisiac there is. Silence is often mistaken for absence, for void, for emptiness waiting to be filled. But in the presence of a mature woman who has mastered the art of silence, you learn quickly that silence can be one of the most potent and seductive forces in the room. Her silence doesn't lack energy. It charges the atmosphere. It speaks without words and listens without judgment. It creates space for truth to emerge and for masks to fall. This kind of woman doesn't fill every pause with chatter. She doesn't over-explain, overshare, or nervously try to make everyone comfortable. She is comfortable within herself, and her silence becomes an invitation, not for attention, but for depth, It's a filter, a test, a mirror. It unsettles those who are addicted to noise and distraction and draws in those who are starving for authenticity and draw authenticity. You feel her silence long before she says anything, and sometimes long after she's gone. Her seductive silence isn't cold or passive. It's intentional, controlled. It is the stillness of someone who has stopped needing to prove her worth through constant communication. She's not interested in being agreeable. She's not performing interest to be polite. If she is quiet, it's because she's watching, listening, feeling. She sees things others miss. She reads between the lines. And if you're not honest, she'll know, without you saying a word, she's mastered the pause. She's mastered the pause. The space between breath and response, between eye contact and smile, between question and answer. Her silences are not accidental. They are laced with precision. She uses them to draw people out, to test integrity, to center herself. In a world that rushes to fill every gap with noise, her restraint becomes a form of power. People lean in around her, not because she demands attention, but because she withdraws it. With her, silence becomes erotic, not because it hides anything, but because it exposes everything. In that stillness, you feel your own thoughts more loudly, your own desires, your own fears, your own heartbeat. She doesn't seduce with compliments or charm. She seduces by making you aware of yourself in her presence. And when she finally does speak, it feels like an answer to a question you hadn't realized you'd been asking. There's a mystery in a woman who doesn't rush to be understood, who lets silence speak for her until it's time to be direct. She doesn't fill her conversations with disclaimers or justifications. She says what she means and lets the silence afterward do the rest of the work. That space, that daring lack of filler, creates a magnetic pull. It challenges you to meet her where she is, without distraction or defense. Her seductive silence is also a boundary. She doesn't argue with people who can't hear her,